Morning, James. It's your first time here?
It is, I think. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I'm just in learning mode at the moment, so you won't get any tricky questions from me.
Okay, good.
I was quite surprised when I joined and I was the first person. I guess it's New Year after everybody coming back, isn't it?
Yeah, I had to cancel another meeting because the people are actually returning on the 7th as opposed to the 5th.
Yeah.
And we usually have Mike and Jeff attending. At the end of last year, we had a push to get a number of useless guys out.
Cool. Yeah, I work for a UK-based startup called Fractile, and we're still small and growing, but
What's
the
the company called?
Fractile
Ah, okay.
and the
What's the
OCP. Sorry, carry on.
yeah, and what's the focus of the company?
We're developing an AI accelerator device,
Oh, okay.
so similar to a GPU but different.
Okay, why don't we get started? I don't know if Jeff is going to make it today. Hi, Mike.
Hey, John.
So, Jed, okay. So for the status of the use guys that we contributed, it was stuck in a queue and stuck the queue. So it's now going into SC review. I guess later this week. It had to be approved by both Jeff and I, so that was done yesterday. So we can move forward. Pull requests. Um, can you see this? Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Good. I like it when I switch screens. I don't have to turn everything off. Okay. Uh, okay. This is being handled by the number of profiles in process. So a couple of them are owned by this work stream. A couple of them are actually owned by other work streams, James. Um, they're, because we consider them well, they consider themselves also the subject matter experts. So we basically say you can host it in our repository, but you guys can control the governance and you guys go manage it. So that goes for the rack manager. So that's being done by the rack management work stream, which is called Open RMC. Um, and you might be interested in their work because they're extending the rack manager for the AI rack. Um, so I think they're on point three, which they're going to extend to cover both the cooling infrastructure and the power infrastructure going into a rack. So they've made a kind of a turn to, okay, we've got enough for telemetry and managing the rack in general. There's this thing called the AI rack that we need to go focus the rack manager on. So these two pull requests are theirs to own. This was actually the latest revision of the specification of usage guide, and this is merely a change in the tool chain because we're doing all our documents in Markdown and we're converting it to PDF. The cooling environments is owned by the hardware management for liquid cooling workstream within the cooling environments project because they are in fact the subject matter experts there. These two are owned by us in addition to server. So we own Baseline, which goes across all OCP platforms, and then each platform can extend the baseline for their particular platform. So we just updated the baseline last quarter. That's one of the contributions. And now we're going through the various profiles and pulling them from 1.0 to 1.1. Okay, so on this one, this is changed to support power subsystems and thermal subsystems. So uh, in the original implementation of Redfish model, we had a power resource and a thermal resource. We said that actually a few years ago that that was inadequate, and we needed a new a resource to express all the possible variations of power and thermal. We did that several years ago as profiles are now just catching up. So as part of that, we were just in the process of releasing until we got a last minute issue. I think uh, yeah, we released almost everything, and then we got one issue. Talk to issue. Yeah, I'll talk to the issue first. Where'd it go? There. So this is filed against the server. Or management 1.1 profile that we're just about to release, and this was the serial console doesn't support this connector type that we had placed in there. So the action had been, he actually says, here's the problem, guys. Here's your suggestion. Here's my suggestion solution of it. And we had the discussion. We finally said implement suggestion, but we need to couple this IPMI and SSH. So basically, the serial console can be either um, set to SSH or to IPMI, and we just need to be able to express that within the model. So the last change in pull request is actually to add this fragment with a connection between the two. And Mike, that's why I need your help in that. I'm not quite sure how to go do that.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. I'll take a look.
so what I've done is I think there is a pull request just for the change itself. Yeah, so here's the change. I swapped this out and placed this in there. Um,
Yeah,
I
this was
think
you wanted to make sure at least one was implemented. It didn't matter.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a look at that. And I thought the other thing we discussed was, did we want to force people down the path of using computer system to represent this, because of the older path uses a manager as a method. Oh, can you open up above line 132? I want to see what the requirement up there was. Oh, go down. Yeah, we have this marked as mandatory. I thought we wanted to reduce it to recommended because we didn't want to force people down the path of implementing the computer system method if they already support the manager method.
Oh yeah, because we have to be backward compatible.
Yeah,
Okay. I believe you're right. So you want to make this
recommended.
yeah, do we need to check that it's still in managers?
Yeah, we should double check that.
Okay, that's all I have for that. So with that, let's go back to the rest of the pull request. I don't think any other are ready. So yeah, so we're not doing components, we're not doing switcher at this point. Okay, so going to issues, do a couple of issues here on cooling environment. So, Mike, should I assign those to Mick or I guess Jeff Otto at this point? Oh, and let
Uh,
him have.
you can assign that top one to me and the second one to either Jeff or Mick.
Oh, you have to assign to yourself. Why is you don't show up?
I guess so. Oh, I see. Do MRAIN or
No,
AIN. No, you are AIN.
him.
AINERI.
No, you don't exist.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
All right. I will. Let me just assign that to myself on here.
I guess can you
I
assign it?
cannot assign it to myself.
Okay, let me go fix that. That that's an issue. Okay,
But
so
he's
that
done
takes care of.
polls before, right?
Oh
I've
no,
done polls,
Yeah, look
but
down there, Ranieri
there's
opened.
a weird permission setting with how to assign issues. So I've made
Okay,
pull requests without being assigned the issue.
okay.
right. So yeah, it's a logistic issue. I go because OCP does it totally differently than the way Redfish does it, right? Redfish, you just open up right permission, and it's everything. Here you don't. You have to actually go create a fork. Okay, so that takes care of these. The servers are all being dealt with. Oh, and these are the ones against baseline, and baselines are fixed. They're waiting for the release to go out before we close the fixed ones. Oh, and that's probably that. I'll mark that server. Okay, so and again, that's where I can which where no one's doing. Okay, so that brings us back to the agenda. So that was pull request, that was issues, and the next was I think last time we had listed the additional use cases or profiles we will update. One of those was the profile for DCSCM, which I think we've been carrying for a while. So let me open that. Okay, so this is so the task is to developers can model DCSCM within a system in many ways. The variations will reduce the interoperability of client code for managing DCSCM. Solutions to prescribe a common set of management tasks for the module, and then prescribe the Redfish model via the profile and usage guide. Where I started some of this work as part of the reference form and it got bounced out. Basically, if it's prescriptive, it should go to OCP. So it got bounced back here to me. This is the list of tasks that I want to put in the users guide. My intent is to get it kind of blessed here and then take this to the DCSCM work stream for them to edit and modify as subject matter experts.
A lot of what's going on there now includes component integrity.
Okay,
Maybe that's a 1.1, but I'd like to see that in there and make them kick it out.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That way they you can say, yeah, you gave it to us. We didn't have time to look at it. Come back when you get this one done. So
I guess
that makes a lot of sense.
can you go back to the first slide?
Oh, sure. It was
Oh,
controversial.
Um, no, I mean the main concern I keep kind of rat holing down is when does the external user actually care about whether their platform is DCSCM designed or not?
I don't think that's the issue.
Okay.
I think it's if it's DCSCM, then you want to make sure you do the other stuff. It's the other way around.
Okay.
I don't care if it's DCSCM either, but if they're doing it DCSCM, even if they're not, I want them to do some of the base stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's assume that all lots of OCP, right, hardware vendors put DCSCM because it's an OCP thing,
Mhm.
and now they have to go build a reference model.
Hmm.
Just look at the model, you can do it various ways, and they will, and we'll have
Yep.
arbitrary decisions made about
Sure.
modeling, which we're trying to
They
prevent.
they will. I also wonder if folks want to try to keep the DCSCMness kind of abstracted from the user, since from a serviceability perspective, it may just be a single board, even though if you look at it, if you drill down into it, it's multiple components, and you could model those as different types of instances. But hmm,
Right, which is, if you look, what I have as mandatory is very, very light, right? I
hmm,
want you to get info, figure out who, if you have a DCM, who's making it,
hmm,
get the status of it. I want you to be able to get the information. So that's the physical model, right? The
Mhm.
functional side is I want you to get the network information, get its firmware revision, and then get its status. And whether you can do anything to it, like reset and log or update, yeah, I don't care. This is a baseline, right?
yeah,
And then
because I do see that BCM functional is kind of a overlap with what's already in the service baseline. So that part's the easy thing, because I would expect that out of any good BMC, regardless of it being DCSM or not.
yeah, and
Um,
that's the statement I want to make is that just because you did it in DCSEM, what additional things do you need to go do? And we can highlight this stuff, saying, hey, this is already mandatory in the baseline. So we're not adding undue requirements for you guys just because you're DCSEM. So this is just why I want them to look at it is, hey, mandatory is all we want to say. And if you guys happen to implement the rest of it, there's a way to model it. And that's all part of the model. But the mandatory is very light. And then the last thing it says linkage, which is where we actually have to be somewhat prescriptive because of the model. Um, so before we get in too deep, so um, James, how well do you know? Do you know anything about DCSCM?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
it's
not
just
going to
a,
claim.
a,
Sorry,
a
carry on.
modular management board. It's a data board which is holds the BMC and all the management
Yeah.
hooks.
And
Okay.
and probably a TPM. I think that's required for them too, right?
I don't think it's required.
Okay.
It is not. I don't know. I don't believe it's.
It may depend on which version.
Oh, yes, it does because it's secure control management. They had that.
You're right. That's SC, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, well,
Secure control management.
but does a
but I thought
TPM required? Yeah.
no, because I thought you could achieve security without a TPM.
Okay, okay, okay. That's a rat hole.
They they do call out TPM SPI.
Right. So that may be a pushback we get is
So you got
we
to
have to go more.
pretend to have a TPM.
Hmm.
Or provision for one to
Right.
that may exist.
Which is why I got back to man component integrity needs to be on slide 2.
Maybe that's a server baseline requirement as opposed to a DCSCM requirement.
Will you represent the TPM with component integrity?
You represent the TPM, the physical TPM, as a trusted component, and then component integrity layers on top of that to represent the security checks you can apply on top.
And you're convincing me. I want them to, whoever implements a DCSCM, to have to do it on their system. Let me think about it.
Okay, if you want to add some use cases and
No, I'm looking at all of this and it's very physical board oriented. It's not,
okay,
gee, what do you do if you have a system with devices? So yeah, okay.
okay. So on linkage is where I said, okay, for each of these resources, there are two ways to link them forwards and backwards. So the red ones are the ones that stated as mandatory, and green we can say are optional if implemented. So um, so there's only one linkage between managed for servers and managed for chassis, and then managers with managers if there's a hierarchical construct. Well, sorry, where the manager is in which chassis the manager happens to be in. Okay, so this manager BMC is um, in is hosted manifest by the DCSCM, and all these other linkages are not needed because we could go gonzo trying to connect all this stuff together. And then for the if implemented, if you on the physical side, if you have a thermal subsystem, a power subsystem, um, a hardware log or assembly, uh, this is where you would model it. On the functional side, the BMC has to have a Ethernet and a single Ethernet so you can figure out what the connectivity is. But on the log server side, it may have a management log. And if it's implemented, this is where you would put it. Any questions? So that's why I think the biggest thing, I don't think they'll have an issue with this. I think this is where we're actually being prescriptive is that, yeah, you can model all these linkages if you want. These are the only ones that are necessary, required. Okay. And then the last is what that looks like from uh, if I take this and I highlight what is red here, is that I have status, I have firmware version, I have your Ethernet interfaces, and then I have your linkage. And the black just shows you out there's a whole bunch of other things. If the DCSEM team wants to go in and dig into the details of making any requirements on any of the other things they can, they should tell us and file an issue on the DCSM profile. Okay, any questions? Okay. If not, I'm going to take this to DCSM and say, hey, this is what we're doing. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we're building a model and we'll bring it through here for review if each time we do a review. Okay, that's that. So the last item on the agenda is the status of the profile updates. So last month we said, oh, these are the ones we're going to review, update. Now that we have these, once these are released, they're the ones that are currently in SC review. So so on this month, I just wanted to assign names. So I figure I would do server 1.1, which I'm in the process of doing, and I did the review for. Mike, you would do PDU and PowerShell to point to the new server baseline.
Mhm.
I would do update the baseline to version 2.0 to point to the service baseline, and then I would go back and these are we're not bumping major revs, and then I will bump server 2.0 to baseline 2.0 once this is in place. Any issues? Mike, you happy with that?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, then we're set. In that case, I've reached the end of my agenda. Are there any Any questions, any issues, any updates? None. James, any questions?
No, I was just about to say I've got a lot of reading and catch up to do.
Okay, feel free to ask questions. We've been at this a
Yeah.
while.
My role is hardware and systems, so it encompasses everything, cooling and backplanes and bus bars and DCM. So yes, lots to learn. But the OCP is a great community, so thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.